There are cities in this country where a trucker will drive on fumes, white knuckles on the wheel, rather than pull off and stop, because stopping is the dangerous thing. I am talking about the places where cargo gets stolen right off the trailer, where thieves hit armored trucks in broad daylight, places where the rail yards are worked with guns. Today we are counting down 20 American cities that truckers are warned to roll straight through, not even stopping for fuel. And I did not just guess at this. Every city on this list is backed by real numbers, cargo theft data, crime rates, the kind of facts a driver actually needs. We are counting down from 20. And number 1 is a city so notorious, it combines almost every danger on this list into one place. Buckle up, keep your doors, and let's move on. Number 20 kicks us off in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and right away you can feel the theme of this whole list. This is a major freight town sitting on Interstate 94, one of the busiest trucking runs in the Midwest, the constant pipeline between here and Chicago. That steady flow of trucks and cargo is exactly what draws trouble. Here is the part that matters. Milwaukee carries one of the higher violent crime rates of any big city in the region, with property and vehicle crime running well above the national average. And a lot of it clusters in the older industrial corridors where trucks load, fuel, and park overnight. Veteran drivers will tell you to fuel up before you get into the city, handle your business fast, and get back on the highway. Now, let me be fair, because that matters too. The trouble in Milwaukee is concentrated in specific neighborhoods, not spread evenly across the map, and the overall numbers have actually been coming down over the last couple of years. Plenty of the metro is perfectly calm. But for a trucker rolling in heavy and tired at 2 in the morning, the smart move is the same one drivers have always made here. Keep your eyes open, keep your doors locked, and do not make this the place you stop just because you're running low on fuel. Number 19 is Indianapolis, Indiana, and they do not call it the crossroads of America for nothing. More major interstates cross here than almost anywhere in the country. Interstate 65, Interstate 69, Interstate 70, and Interstate 74 all running straight through. For a trucker, that is the whole job. But all that freight is exactly the problem. Here is the part that matters. Cargo theft across Indiana jumped about 30% in the last year, and Indianapolis itself carries a violent crime rate well above the national average, plus one of the highest vehicle theft rates in the entire country. Let that sink in. The odds of a vehicle getting stolen here run roughly 1 in 132. When your truck and your trailer are the most valuable things on the lot, that number should get your attention. Now, in fairness, the worst of it sticks to certain corridors on the near east and west sides. Much of the city is ordinary and safe, and violent crime has actually dropped around 15% recently. But the freight does not stop moving, and neither do the people who target it. So if you are passing through the crossroads of America, treat it like a crossroads. Fuel up, keep rolling, and save the long overnight stop for somewhere with a fence, a light, and a few more eyes watching the lot. Number 18 is Phoenix, Arizona, and this one is a different kind of danger. Phoenix is not known for the violent crime you'll hear about in some other cities on this list. The threat here is aimed straight at your trailer. Over the past year, the cargo trackers at CargoNet flagged Phoenix as one of the hotspots where organized crews have shifted to a simple, brutal tactic, just stealing whole loaded trailers left sitting unattended. Here is why it happens here. Phoenix has exploded into one of the biggest warehouse and distribution hubs in the Southwest, but truck parking has not kept up, so drivers end up leaving loaded trailers in unsecured lots and on dark side streets. That is a buffet for thieves. Here's the part that matters. With the average stolen shipment now worth well over $200,000, you can go to sleep with a full trailer and wake up to an empty spot where it used to be. Now, to be fair, you are far less likely to be personally harmed in Phoenix than in some of the cities still to come on this list. This is a crime against your cargo, not usually against you. But for an owner-operator, losing a load can be the thing that ends your business. So in Phoenix, the warning is simple. Do not drop a loaded trailer just anywhere, and never assume an empty lot is a safe one. Quick pit stop before number 17. If you drive for a living or you just love a good white-knuckle road story, do yourself a favor and hit that subscribe button. It's free, it takes 1 second, and unlike half the truck stops on this list, nothing here is going to try to break into your cab. Subscribe and let us keep rolling down the list. Number 17 is New Orleans, Louisiana. And beyond the music and the food, this is one of the busiest port cities in the entire country, with freight pouring off the Mississippi River and rolling out by truck in every direction. But Louisiana consistently posts some of the highest combined crime rates in the nation, and New Orleans sits right at the heart of that. Here is the part that matters. The city carries a violent crime rate that have long ranked among the worst in America. And for a trucker, the danger doubles up because you are hauling valuable freight through neighborhoods where both cargo theft and street crime run high. The areas around the port and the industrial canals, the exact places trucks have to go, are not the blocks you want to be parked on after dark. Now, in fairness, New Orleans has seen its homicide numbers fall recently, and the tourist heart of the city stays heavily patrolled. Much of your run can go perfectly smoothly, but the freight corridors are a different world from Bourbon Street, and that is where your truck takes you. So the veteran advice here is blunt. Do your pickup or your drop, keep your fuel topped off so you are not forced to stop, and point the truck out of the city before you settle in for the night. Number 16 is Stockton, California. And this one has quietly become one of the fastest rising danger spots for truckers in the whole country. Stockton sits in the heart of California's Central Valley, right on the freight backbone of Interstate 5 and Highway 99, with a major inland port of its own. That makes it a magnet for cargo. Here is the part that matters. Cargo theft across San Joaquin County, where Stockton sits, surged about 44% in the last year, one of the sharpest jumps anywhere in the state, as thieves pushed out of Los Angeles and into the valley looking for easier targets. Layer on top of that a city that has wrestled with one of the higher violent crime rates in California for years, and you have a genuinely risky place to be sitting with a loaded trailer. Now, to be fair, Stockton has worked hard to turn things around, and the crime is concentrated in specific parts of town rather than everywhere. But the freight runs right through the trouble, and the thieves here are getting bolder, not quieter. So if your route drags you through Stockton, treat that trailer like gold. Park only where it is secured and lit, stay alert at the fuel islands, and do not let a low tank talk you into stopping somewhere you would not stop in daylight. Number 15 is Bakersfield, California, and if you want proof that cargo theft is spreading fast, this is it. Bakersfield anchors the southern end of the Central Valley, the gateway where Interstate 5 and Highway 99 funnel a huge share of California's freight up and down the state. For years, it was considered a relatively low-risk stop. Not anymore. Here's the part that matters, and it is the standout number on this whole list. Cargo theft in Kern County, home to Bakersfield, exploded by about 82% in a single year, the single biggest jump anywhere in California. Let that sink in. Organized crews realized the heavily watched ports down south were getting harder to hit, so they moved inland to places like this, where the freight is just as rich and the eyes on it are fewer. Now, in fairness, Bakersfield is not famous for violent street crime aimed at drivers, and plenty of truckers pass through every single day without an issue. The danger here is overwhelmingly about your load, not your safety. But an 82% spike is not a fluke, it is a trend, and your trailer is the target. So in Bakersfield, do not get comfortable just because it used to be quiet. Secure the load, park smart, and keep moving. Number 14 is Dallas, Texas, and this is one of the great freight crossroads of the entire country. Sitting where Interstate 20, Interstate 35, and Interstate 45 all come together, the Dallas-Fort Worth area moves a staggering amount of cargo, with warehouses and distribution centers stretching as far as the eye can see. And where the piles up on freight, so do the thieves. Here is the part that matters. The CargoNet trackers at CargoNet named Dallas County one of the 4 worst counties in the entire nation for cargo theft this past year, putting it in the same tier as Los Angeles and Chicago. That is elite bad company. Thieves here run the full playbook, from quietly stealing unattended trailers to sophisticated schemes where they pose as legitimate carriers and simply drive your load away. Now, in fairness, Dallas is a sprawling, modern metro, and the violent crime risk to you personally is lower than in some cities still ahead on this list. The real threat is to your freight. But with the average stolen load now worth well over $200,000, that is plenty to worry about. So in the Dallas area, verify who you are handing your load to. Never leave a loaded trailer sitting in an unsecured lot, and remember that here, the smartest looking guy in the yard might be the one trying to rob you. Real quick, I want to hear from the drivers out there. Which of these cities have you actually rolled through, and which one earned its spot on this list in your book? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one, and the road stories you all share are the best part. And if this countdown is keeping you company on a long haul, tap that like button so it reaches more drivers. All right, back to the road. Number 13 is Detroit, Michigan, a legendary manufacturing and freight city that has fought hard to climb back, but still carries one of the heaviest crime burdens of any major city in America. For a trucker, Detroit is unavoidable. The auto plants, the rail yards, the border crossing into Canada, all of it runs on trucks. Here's the part that matters. Detroit has long sat among the highest violent crime cities in the nation, and a lot of that risk is concentrated in the very industrial zones where freight moves and trucks park. Add in steady cargo theft tied to the auto parts and components rolling through, and you have a city where both you and your load can be targets. Now, to be fair, this is important, Detroit has made real progress, with violent crime down roughly 30% over the last several years, and there is genuine pride and revival happening downtown. The whole city is not the war zone its old reputation suggests, but the freight corridors and the late-night industrial stretches are still no place to let your guard down. So the veteran rule for Detroit holds. Plan your stops before you arrive, keep your fuel high enough that you control where you stop, and treat those quiet industrial blocks at night with the respect they demand. Number 12 is Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, a massive East Coast freight hub anchoring the busy cargo corridor that runs between New York and the rest of the Northeast. Trucks and cargo flood through here day and night, and that has put a target on the whole region. Here's the part that matters. Cargo theft across Pennsylvania climbed more than 20% in the last year, and the New York to Philadelphia stretch is one of the most notorious cargo theft corridors in the country, with organized crews working the warehouses, the rail links, and the trucks themselves. On top of the freight risk, Philadelphia carries serious gun violence, much of it concentrated in specific neighborhoods, including some of the older industrial areas trucks pass through. Now, in fairness, the trouble in Philadelphia is heavily concentrated, not citywide, and homicides have fallen sharply from their recent peak. Huge parts of the metro are perfectly ordinary. But the combination of a hot cargo theft corridor and pockets of real violence means a trucker has to stay sharp. So rolling through Philadelphia, the advice is the familiar one. Keep the load secure, know your route, do not stop in the rough industrial pockets just because you were tired, and stay topped off so the decision of where to stop always stays yours. Number 11 is Baltimore, Maryland, home to one of the most important seaports on the entire East Coast, which means an enormous volume of containerized freight moves out of the city by truck. But Baltimore also carries one of the highest homicide rates of any major city in America, and that grim reality shapes every trucker's run through here. Here is the part that matters. The danger in Baltimore is a double threat. You have the cargo coming off the port, which draws organized theft, and you have a level of street violence that has put the city near the top of the nation's crime rankings for years. The industrial zones around the port, the exact places a trucker has to go, sit close to some of the toughest neighborhoods in the city. Now, to be fair, Baltimore's violence is concentrated in specific areas, and the city has seen its homicide numbers fall recently, so the picture is improving. Much of your run can pass without a hitch, but the port corridors are not the blocks where you want to be parked and asleep at night, so the seasoned advice for Baltimore is clear. Handle your port business efficiently, keep your fuel high so you are never forced into a bad stop, and once the work is done, put the city in your mirrors before you rest. Number 10 is Miami, Florida, and now we are cracking the top 10. Miami is one of the great gateways for freight in America, with a giant seaport and an enormous flow of goods heading north out of the city by truck, especially electronics, produce, and high-value imports. All that rich cargo makes it a long-time favorite for thieves. Here is the part that matters. Cargo theft trackers consistently rank Miami among the top hotspots in the entire country, and Florida as a whole sits high on the national cargo theft list year after year. The crews here are experienced and organized, running everything from straight trailer theft to elaborate fraud schemes, and the warm, round-the-clock economy means the freights and the thieves never really sleep. Now, in fairness, Miami is a sprawling tourist and business hub, and your personal safety risk is lower than in the most violent cities on this list. The threat here is squarely aimed at your load. But with thieves this sophisticated and cargo this valuable, dropping your guard for even one overnight can cost you everything you're hauling. So in Miami, verify every broker and every handoff. Never leave a loaded trailer sitting unsecured. And remember that in this city, the people targeting your freight do this for a living. Number 9 is Newark, New Jersey, sitting right at the doorstep of the third largest port in all of North America. The sheer volume of containerized cargo moving through here is almost hard to picture, and every bit of it eventually rides on a truck. That makes this one of the most concentrated cargo theft zones in the country. Here is the part that matters. Cargo theft across New Jersey did not just rise this past year, it exploded, with some reports showing jumps of 50% and higher, and the crime trackers now describe the New York City metro area as a sophisticated operation hub for cargo theft and freight fraud. Let that sink in. This is not random opportunism, it is organized crime treating your trailer like an ATM. The dense maze of industrial parks and port roads around Newark gives thieves endless cover. Now, to be fair, this is overwhelmingly a crime against cargo, not a story about drivers being harmed, and the area is heavily trafficked and busy at all hours. But the criminals here are as advanced as any in the nation. So around Newark, the warning is sharp. Confirm exactly who is taking your load. Keep that trailer locked and in secured lots only, and treat every too-good-to-be-true pickup like the trap it might be. Quick one before we hit the top 8, and these last cities are the heavy hitters. If you are still with me, go ahead and subscribe, because I make these deep dives all the time, and you do not want to miss the next one. Think of it like a good CB channel. You keep it on because the next call might be the one that saves your run. Subscribe and let us count down the final 8. Number 8 is St. Louis, Missouri, one of the most important freight crossroads in the entire country, where Interstate 70, Interstate 44, and Interstate 55 all meet alongside the mighty Mississippi River. Nearly every long-haul driver in America passes through here eventually. But St. Louis also carries one of the highest violent crime and homicide rates of any major city in the nation. Here is the part that matters. Unlike the cities where the threat is mostly to your cargo, in St. Louis the danger is more personal. The city has ranked near the very top of America's violent crime list for years, and a lot of that risk sits in the older urban core that freight routes cut right through. Combine heavy truck traffic, valuable loads, and serious street crime, and you get a city veteran drivers treat with real caution. Now, in fairness, St. Louis violence is heavily concentrated in specific neighborhoods. The suburbs and much of the metro are perfectly safe, and the city has reduced its murder numbers recently. But as a crossroads, it funnels everyone through the middle, and that is where the trouble lives. So passing through St. Louis, the rule is simple and old as the road. Fuel up before you reach the core, keep moving through the rough stretches, and pick your overnight spot well outside the trouble zones. Number 7 is San Bernardino, California, the beating heart of the region known as the Inland Empire. And for the trucking world, this is ground zero for cargo theft in America. Just east of Los Angeles, this area has become the warehouse and distribution capital of the country, with millions of square feet of fulfillment centers feeding goods to the entire western United States. Here is the part that matters. The cargo theft trackers at CargoNet named San Bernardino County one of the single worst counties in the entire nation for cargo theft this past year. Let that sink in. With so much freight stacked up in one place, organized crews work this area relentlessly, hitting trailers in yards, on the street, and at the overwhelmed truck stops where drivers are forced to park. On top of the theft, the city of San Bernardino itself has long struggled with a high violent crime rate. Now, in fairness, the Inland Empire is vast, and most of the danger is aimed at your cargo rather than at you. But the sheer concentration of freight makes this perhaps the most targeted trucking ground in the country. So here, more than almost anywhere, you cannot relax. Park only in secured, well-lit lots, never leave a loaded trailer exposed, and assume that in the Inland Empire, someone is always watching the freight. Number 6 is Oakland, California, and this one is a brutal double threat. Oakland is a major Pacific port city with a constant river of containerized cargo flowing out by truck, and it sits on the busy freight corridors of the San Francisco Bay Area. But Oakland has also been ranked as the single most dangerous city in all of California. Here is the part that matters. Oakland carries a violent crime rate around 16 to 17 incidents per 1,000 residents, far above the state norm. And on top of that, it is infamous for vehicle break-ins, including big rigs. Drivers tell story after story of trailers slashed open and cabs broken into, sometimes in bold daylight, sometimes while they are still inside. The cargo theft trackers even flag the Bay Area as a place where crews now grab whole loaded trailers left unattended. Layer the theft on top of the violence, and Oakland earns its spot. Now, in fairness, the crime is heavily concentrated in East and West Oakland. The city has been bringing its violence numbers down with renewed efforts, and plenty of the region is fine. But the port and the freight routes run straight through the worst of it. So in Oakland, stay sharp every minute. Keep the cab locked even when you are in it. Never leave your trailer unattended, and do not let an empty fuel tank push you into a stop you will regret.
Number 5 is Houston, Texas, a giant of American freight, with one of the nation's busiest ports, a massive energy and shipping economy, and trucks moving through every hour of every day. But Houston holds a title no city wants. Here's the part that matters. According to the FBI, Houston has led the entire nation in armored truck robberies since 2015, accounting for the lion's share of these violent, gun-heavy heists year after year. Think about what that tells you. The criminals here are bold enough to hit armored vehicles in broad daylight, which means an ordinary trucker hauling valuable freight is squarely on the menu. Add in steady cargo theft across the region and the everyday vehicle break-ins and robberies that come with a sprawling city this size, and Houston is genuinely dangerous ground for a driver. Now, in fairness, Houston is enormous, and the vast majority of your miles here will pass without trouble, with the worst incidents concentrated in particular areas. But a city that leads the country in armored truck robberies has clearly got crews willing to use force for cargo. So in Houston, keep your guard up, especially around fuel and parking stops. Vary your routine when you can, and never assume that because your truck is not armored, the robbers will leave it alone. Last call for this one, we are down to the final 4. If this list has been riding shotgun with you, do me a favor and subscribe before the big finish. It costs you nothing, and it keeps these deep dives coming for your next long haul. And drop a comment with the one city you refuse to stop in, because I have a feeling number 1 is going to start an argument. Subscribe and let us bring it home.
Number 4 is Los Angeles, California, the single most targeted cargo theft region in the entire country, and a name every trucker says with a little caution. Massive amounts of freight flow through the port of Los Angeles, the busiest container complex in the nation, and that endless river of goods has made the area a paradise for thieves. Here's the part that matters. California leads the whole country in cargo theft by a wide margin, and Los Angeles has long been the epicenter, with commercial burglary losses in the greater area running around 32% above the national average. The crime here ranges from organized crews looting cargo straight off the trains, those images of railroad tracks buried in torn open boxes came from right here, to slick fraud rings and trailer thefts. Now, in fairness, Los Angeles is vast, and the threat is overwhelmingly aimed at your freight rather than your personal safety. And theft in a city core has actually eased a bit as crews shift inland to places like Bakersfield and Stockton. But make no mistake, this is still the beating heart of American cargo theft. So in Los Angeles, treat your load like a target the entire time you are in the basin. Secure it, watch it, park it only where it is protected, and never assume a quiet lot means a safe one. Number 3 is Chicago, Illinois, the great freight hub of the Midwest, where the nation's rail network and its trucking arteries collide. If you drive long enough, your freight will pass through Chicago, and so will you. But that makes it one of the most dangerous cargo cities in the country. Here is the part that matters. Cook County, home to Chicago, ranks among the very worst counties in the nation for cargo theft. And what sets the city apart is the violence attached to it. Thieves here have used guns to carry out cargo theft, especially around the sprawling and often poorly secured rail yards. And the city has even seen armored truck robberies more than triple in a recent year. Let that sink in. This is not just quiet trailer theft in the dark. It is armed robbery of freight. Combine that with a city that already wrestles with serious violent crime, and Chicago becomes a place where both your load and your safety are genuinely at risk. Now, in fairness, the trouble concentrates in specific areas and rail corridors, and huge stretches of the region are perfectly routine. But the freight runs right through the danger. So in Chicago, keep your fuel high, avoid the worst rail yard areas after dark, lock everything down, and stay alert, because here, the people after your cargo may well be armed. Number 2 is Atlanta, Georgia, the freight capital of the entire Southeast, where Interstate 75, Interstate 85, and Interstate 20 converge into one of the busiest trucking intersections in America. Nearly everything moving through the Southeast touches Atlanta, and that has made it one of the top cargo theft hubs in the country. Here is the part that matters. Atlanta consistently ranks among the worst cities in the nation for cargo theft, with organized crews working the warehouses, the distribution centers, and the trucks themselves. But there is a second danger here that catches drivers off guard: the roads. Atlanta's notorious for its steep grades, tangled interchanges, and brutal traffic. So on top of watching your back for thieves, you're fighting some of the most demanding and crash-prone trucking conditions in the country. That combination, rich cargo and treacherous roads, is why veteran drivers stay on high alert the moment they hit the perimeter. Now, in fairness, Atlanta is a huge, thriving metro, and much of your run will go fine, with the theft risk aimed mostly at your freight. But between the thieves and the traffic, this is a city that punishes a driver who gets complacent. So in Atlanta, secure your load, give yourself room in that wild traffic, and never let the chaos of the road distract you from the trailer behind you. And number 1 is Memphis, Tennessee, the city that combines almost every danger we have talked about into one place, which is exactly why veteran drivers say it with a knowing look. Memphis is a titan of American freight. It is home to one of the largest air cargo hubs on the planet. It sits at the crossroads of major interstates and rail lines, and the Mississippi River runs right alongside it. If you haul freight in this country, sooner or later, your load moves through Memphis. The whole logistics world revolves around the city. But here is the part that matters, and it is the reason Memphis takes the top spot. Memphis has carried the highest violent crime rate of any major city in America, at points reaching well over 2,000 incidents per 100,000 residents. Let that sink in. This is not just a cargo problem like some cities on this list, and it is not just a street crime problem like others. It is both, stacked on top of each other in one of the busiest freight cities in the nation. You've got the rich cargo flowing through the hub drawing organized theft, and you've got a level of violent crime that has topped the national rankings. And the two collide in the exact industrial corridors where trucks load, fuel, and park. That's the nightmare combination, and it's why Memphis earns number 1. Now, let me be fair, the same way I've tried to be all the way down this list. Memphis has made real, meaningful progress recently, with homicides dropping significantly and overall crime falling to its lowest point in decades. East Memphis and the suburbs are frankly ordinary and safe. The whole city is not the danger zone its reputation suggests, and the people of Memphis deserve better than to be reduced to a crime statistic. But think back over everything we just drove through. 20 cities, from the cargo theft capitals of California to the armored truck robberies of Houston to the armed rail yards of Chicago, every one of them telling the same hard truth. The freight that keeps this country alive moves straight through its most dangerous places, and the men and women hauling it are the ones who carry that risk, mile after mile, often alone, often at night. That's the job. That is what nobody outside this world sees. And that is the list. 20 American cities where the smartest thing a trucker can do is keep the wheels turning and the doors locked. If there's one thing I hope you take from this, it is that the freight keeping this whole country running moves straight through its most dangerous corners, and the drivers hauling it deserve a lot more credit than they get. So this one goes out to every one of you behind the wheel. Stay alert, trust your gut, and never let an empty tank talk you into a stop you would not make in daylight. Now I want to hear from you. Which city did I miss, and which one would you refuse to stop in no matter what? Drop it in the comments, because the road stories you share help every driver who watches this. If this rode along with you today, stick around. I make these for the trucking world all the time, and the next one might just save you a world of trouble. Stay safe out there, and I will see you down the road.